Hey, Rambo.
Hey, hey,
How's it going?
going good. It's going good. It's a red hot day here today.
Another red hot day. Well, the sun is shining. Did you do anything? Yesterday was the solstice, the longest day of the year. Did you know it was the solstice? Did you do anything
Yeah,
fun
yeah.
to celebrate the
I
solstice?
don't celebrate it, no, but I didn't notice any difference.
Just an extraordinarily long day.
Yeah, but just to talk about it, so with that, then it's weird how I seen in the Patreon thing about Beyonce released her song on "Break My Soul" on the longest day of the year.
Break my solstice.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's.
Yeah.
But
There's
yeah,
something coordinated to that. Did you read the lyrics? Did you read?
yeah. Well, it broke my soul trying to listen to the song. Like, it
It's
really
not
did.
a good, it's not a great song. I like Beyonce. I think some of her music is just absolutely incredible. I mean, just gets stuck in your head, and she's got some great songs. But this ain't it. I just don't. I don't enjoy this anthem. This new
It's
direction she's taking. But the lyrics are pretty interesting. Talks about vibrating on a higher level.
Yeah, I
Shout out
seen
Realize
that.
Radio.
But my dad said that that song was released 30 years ago. The lyrics are old.
What? It's a remake of an. It's a
Yeah,
template. She
yeah.
huh. There's nothing new under the sun. Speaking of that dang sun, nothing, absolutely nothing new under the sun. That they're doing that with Hollywood. They're just remaking old. There's no new storylines anymore. It's just remakes of remakes and remakes. I have to look into
Yeah.
that. Beyonce's new song is an old
It's a
song.
remake because I said it to him. He's like, yeah, it's a remake. That is 30 years old. I was like,
Does he say
okay.
who? Did he remember who sang it?
No, I'll find out in a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How
but it's one of
interesting.
those songs. It's like, sounds to me like, honestly, it's like, I think it's about 5 minutes long. About 2 minutes in it, I was just soul broken. I had to turn it off. But
Yeah.
I had the lyrics up and I did read the lyrics, then it just repeats and repeats and repeats, doesn't
Yeah.
it? But
Lot of repeat.
it's one of those like radio songs that you don't like, and then you find yourself whistling it, like,
Yes.
because it's been played that much.
Yeah.
They make,
You've talked about this a lot. Those
yeah,
earworms. Yeah.
yeah, like they make you kind of want it, don't they? It's one of those tunes that will catch on eventually, whether you like it or not,
They call it a hook. Those really catchy
And how they
portions of
call
the
it
song.
the queen. We talked about this before, haven't we? The drag queen, like the queen of the drags, the queen of the.
There is she really doesn't look, all the promotional material that's coming out now, it does not look like her. It doesn't look like Beyonce. I mean, it's classically drag-like, where she just has this masculinity to it, this overdoneness, I'd say, that's kind of typical of males impersonating females, where, especially in the drag queen culture, where they just have like the overdone makeup, the humongous hair, the ridiculous outfits. It's
I
kind of
think she looks more manly every time I see her, really.
every time. Yeah. There's something, Queen Bey.
Something else we think about, like so they say she's worth 440 million pounds or dollars.
Wow.
Do we think that these celebrities actually have this money that the media claim that they have? I don't think they do.
Ooh, great question, Rambo. That reminds me of all those Forbes richest man in the world lists. Elon Musk right now is supposedly the richest human being on the planet. Well, first of all, we've had this discussion many times. I think these are characters. They're entities. They're essentially shell companies.
Yeah.
They're not actual individuals like you or I who operate in this realm like we do. I believe that these characters really just exist on paper and in pixels and in person, with all the ways we've discussed with impersonators and and all the theatrics, whether it's special effects or digital or just in-person stuff. We've talked about this many times. But do they actually exist in a way that they have a bank account and they
But they just go to the bank and say, I want to draw $1 million out today.
Can I get a couple milli? I gotta go buy that new Bugatti.
I don't think so.
I go and buy a new, and none of these homes. If you were to try to look up the celebrity homes, like Beyonce's homes or Kanye West's homes or whatever, there's this complicated, again, shell game where nothing's bought by these individuals. It's all through these ancillary companies, these in-betweens, these shell companies that are set up to protect the privacy of the owner and protect the privacy of the transaction and blah, blah, blah. And sure. People do use these third-party shell companies in all sorts of different maneuvers to do this, to have privacy with transactions. But I do not believe that that's actually what's happening with, let's say, a Beyonce or, your Kanye West, who's out in Calabasas trying to unload that house he had with Kim or whatever. I don't believe that these are real individuals engaging in these real transactions. And no, I don't believe the bank accounts belong to them. I don't believe the money is...
Putting that money on their name, again, we've spoke about this, it just adds to the power and the influence, and everyone wants to get to that level. Like, she's worth 440 million. She's got all these things. I'm aiming to be like her or him one day.
It's the carrot on the stick. It's the classic dangling carrot. We're not just... jealous is not the right word, but we're not just envious of or desirous. We're not just desirous of their level of fame and infamy and all the trappings that go with being quote unquote famous. There's all these different, the style element where they're wearing these labels, these clothes that are, shoes that cost $4,000 or something, totally unattainable to the average Joe. And also, the number that they have in the bank account is absolutely so untouchable to the reality of the average human. We're never going to see a bank account in our lifetimes that gets anywhere near that.
And 440 million as the balance. I want to see a celebrity go up and show us their bank account. Not that it's... They can't do it because it's not, like you say, they're not real people. That money is not, they're just at their part. The money doesn't matter to them because they're part of the manipulation of us. Do you know, like the money is not nothing. That's nothing that they know that we want. Like the average person wants that money and wants to be like that. It's the dream, the selling the American dream.
And that extreme fortune, that extreme reward for the fame is something that they want us to be
and the
chasing
hard
as
work,
well.
They always say,
all the hard
work gets you where you need, Joe.
It's a lot of hard work, Rambo, to recreate a song that already existed 30 years ago.
Yeah. And they have this thing on our local radio station on how they're running out of melodies and they reuse the same. And it's pretty interesting to listen. They go through songs of like where it's the same tune in the background, kind of. They're using the same. I
love that. That's an audio template. I love that. I grew up listening to oldies like 50s, 60s, and 70s, 40s, 50s, and 60s with my dad, and they're on the radio, the oldies station, as we used to call it. Now the oldies station is like 90s. I was like, no, too much. But I kind of got this foundation of like a baseline of this musicality. And now whenever I'm listening to music by whoever, I'll get this flash in my mind of, I've heard this before. I heard that hook. I've heard that beat. I've heard that, and it drives me bonkers because I usually can't remember the lyrics of the old song.
Do they lower your vibration, these same melodies? I think possibly. Can they lower you a bit without realizing? And
music certainly does.
Is it all bad? This is my thing. Is it all bad? Are all musicians, like, I feel like obviously the big ones, they're putting out music to kind of lower your vibration. I feel like they put certain things drag you down, or they take you, like the lyrics kind of can make you a bit depressed on some of them, can't they, without realizing? And if it's repeat all day or every day on the radio like it is. But I've been like come across this guy. He's not really well known, and I've been listening to his music, and it kind of I feel like he raises my...
Oh, who's that?
It's called Kota the Friend. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's like an unknown artist, and he's an American, and he's not massively known. I think he's got like 300,000 or something, and he doesn't sign to anybody apparently. I don't know how true this is, but he's been about for years, and he's like under the radar, and he's kind of been through all his stuff, and he kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of into it at the minute. I kind of like what the kind of message he puts out there, whether he's in on the deception or what, I don't know, but you kind of get that feeling that how he's unknown, really. Kind of unknown.
Does music lower or raise our vibration? Yeah, I think absolutely. To your original question, I do believe that popular music, especially the ones that you were mentioning, those ones that you hear on the radio a couple times, and then it just gets stuck in your head, and you do not want it in your head, and then it's just, you can't do anything about it
even realizing.
Yes. I do believe that there is a strong plan, and purpose for those types of musical messages. Everything is a message. Everything is a coded frequency, a coded vibration, and language, color, sounds, sights, literally everything that comes into our sensory experience through our ears, through our eyes, through our touch feel. Everything is a message. It's a vibratory message. It's a frequency, and I do believe that we are a sum total. Each individual human being is a sum total of internal and external frequencies, internal vibrations and external vibration, human vibration. You know, if you were to measure us, we individually would have our own unique frequency, our own specific vibe that is unique to us, almost as a fingerprint, as unique as a fingerprint. And I do believe that when we take in certain frequencies, willingly or unwillingly, knowingly or unknowingly, we do change our vibe. We can raise it, we can lower it, and sometimes we can think we're raising it, but we actually lower it, like with some of that crazy ass music, you know, it's
like some songs, that's what we've called like time travel before. Like you can hear a song, it could be good or bad. It can be something that's good, like I think, hey, I like that, or I have a good memory from hearing a song. Might bring you a bad memory, do you know what I mean? Like, so it's time, in a way, music can make you time travel. Back in the day, I can remember like photographically bits from when I was a child, just through certain songs, you know, when I hear it in the background. And
yeah, I'd say music, you know, they've done a lot of studies with Alzheimer's patients, and they play music that is familiar to them in their heyday. You know, let's say it's a 100-year-old man in the nursing home. They would play music from his 30s or 40s, you know, really old-timey music. And they just come to life, reanimate these people that are somewhat comatose, you know, the living dead, essentially, you know, just kind of sitting there in a stupor. The music can bring them back to life in a way that is unlike any medication that you could jolt them with or any sort of procedure that you could, you know, put up upon them. It is a magical,
like therapy. It's like
I mean, they do have music therapy. There's sound healing. I see a lot of this on Instagram. I think it's getting more and more popular. But these sound healers that play against these bowls, they hit a mallet against the bowl. Ooh, and each bowl has its own frequency. Ooh, and someone just sits there, or lays down, and then the person laying down gets a sound bath, is what it's called, a sound bath. And it's supposed to be healing frequencies. You know, I grew up with a gong in my house. Are you familiar with what a gong is? That dong. Yeah, a Balinese gong. When we lived in Jakarta, we had a lot of Balinese, Indonesian furniture. You know, when you're there, you just have what's there. And one of those pieces that we kept with us when we traveled back to the United States was a beautiful gong. And I just loved smashing the shit out of that thing. When I was a kid, I'd be like, Mom, can I gong the gong? She'd be like, no, your father's sleeping. Don't you dare. And I'd be like, Mom. And whenever nobody was in the house, like if I was home from school or something, I would just be there just like bashing that gong as loud as I could. And, you know, you could just feel, I loved it because as a kid, I could feel the vibration resonating through my body. I could feel it in my teeth. Like my teeth would begin to chatter. I could just feel the sound moving in me, moving through me, different than I was able to experience with listening to the radio at that time, or my little, you know, my Sony Walkman or whatever. This was my first time really having a bodily experience through sound. And
maybe sound and music was originally good, and it's been like kind of hijacked to lower your vibration on the radio because everyone listens to those main crap, don't they? Another thing that I found interesting about that Beyonce, going back to her, is the track "Break My Soul" is track 6 on the album. Like they made that known. It was number 6 on the album. Oh, I saw that
when she just released it. It was like 6, "Break My Soul," and then it was just blackness. You know, Beyonce's, I was just thinking, I want to do a deep dive on her history. I did a little one. She's from Houston, Texas gal, fellow Texan. But there's something so mysterious about her, quote unquote, early life. And this is something that we've encountered with all these massive, massive celebrities, is they just sort of appear. You know, they just kind of burst onto the scene fully formed where they didn't exist in any form prior. And their histories are, you know, like the early life section of Wikipedia is remarkably empty, or it usually, one of the hallmarks of these false characters is their early life includes something along the lines of they were a loner or they moved around a lot. You know, these little messages
So
of
nobody
why
knows
no
them.
one would know them. Exactly. Nobody's
Like-
ever heard of this person. Oh, it's because they were a loner. Oh, it's because they moved around a lot. Tom Hanks is especially, he went to some university and he said, you know, he didn't have any friends in college because he spent all of his time in the theater, in the movie theater, and he never went to school. And that's just why it's so
I bet he did.
Yeah,
It's like, with like Beyonce and these big stars that come out, like there is artists out there that never really make it. They can make something from it. They can become local celebrities, but can never become world famous. Do you know what I mean? So that they're not.
Right.
That's where I'm talking about this guy I was just mentioning, and I reckon anyone should listen. Should just check him out. Let me know what you think of him.
Say his name one more time.
Kota, the friend. That's his name. Kota, the friend.
Cota or Kota?
Yeah, Kota.
Kota, Kota. Oh, and Coda, Coda. Coda is a musical term. I think it's like the start of a musical
I
stanza.
just find his lyrics very like, I don't know, something to it. There's
real?
something.
You find them real?
Yeah, real. Like he's real, and he's been going for years and years and years, and never really got anywhere. Do you know? Like he's never been on the MTV or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? He's only kind of exists on YouTube, really, to be honest. Like, as far as
and
I know.
they tell us that people can be discovered on YouTube. Justin Bieber's whole backstory was a YouTube sensation. He got discovered by Usher from his YouTube videos. Yeah, right.
Did you see Justin Bieber's like facial? Did we talk about it?
Yes,
Like
his Toy Story templates where he had that little
one eye
broken
moving
eye.
and all this stuff. Yes.
And his wife, Hailey Bieber, she had a stroke. I mean, they're really playing
They're linking
up.
it to the vaccine.
They're linking it to the vaccine. Yeah. And I believe this is medical theater. This is theater to make us be fearful. The majority of people have gotten the jab. Let's just say that. And so now all these people that got it, now they're planting a seed of extraordinary fear because they're watching all these news stories about people that got the jab and now are suffering these dire consequences. And they're going, oh my God, I got 5 of those jabs. Is this going to happen to me? You know? And that's what they want. They want that to be planted. That's
I know quite a lot of people, say about 5 people that only got 1 jab and didn't go on to get the others based on online stuff and stuff. Yeah. So. And me as well.
All that cardio. Oh, and you, because you're like, hey guys, it ain't real.
But I know I could say quite a few people that just had the 1 jab, but then I also know people that have had them all and would have another one, and it's all about going on holiday. Like everything, like most people who I do know who's had it all, is all about holiday. Like, I'm not staying here just over a jab. I'm not going on holiday just over a jab. You know,
right?
That's the same thing, but. Like a lot of people still claim, like locally to me, that they've had COVID and I've got COVID, or if you cough, don't near me, you got COVID. Like,
let's not forget that humans get sick seasonally. It happens. It's a natural, normal part of being on this planet as a human body system is we get sick, and that usually represents in the form of the common cold or flu. And we've talked about this many times. I believe that the rhetoric around coronavirus ramps up in these times that the majority of human beings go through there's something called the summer cold. I'm actually experiencing the summer cold right now. It's just a regular cold. And if you look up the way that a cold progresses, it's pretty standard. It's just a standard cycle that the body goes through to expel toxins, waste from the cellular system. We do it. It's just how our bodies clean out when we do it. Like every animal, like every organic entity, we have a regular cleaning out cycle. And I think that
sometimes it might not be every year or every 6 months. Like at one point, I wasn't ill for years. I felt like it didn't come around for me for years, and then all of a sudden it can come on for a week of.
You know, maybe your cellular entity did not need to have the cleaning out process. There's times where I believe we are living in line with, I think, I think stress is the biggest harbinger of whether or not we will succumb to a form of illness, a form of sickness. I think that dis-ease within the mind creates disease in the body. And when we let our guards down, and by guards I mean our louche defenses, when we become overwhelmed by stressful situations, coupled with maybe not taking that great of care of yourself, not getting the sleep you need, not getting the nutrition you need, not hydrating, the gamut of just basic taking care of yourself, we will succumb. We'll get the cold, we'll get the flu, and it can be pretty bad. It can be pretty bad. No, and this is any time. This is not just COVID 2020 on. This is all time through all history. And I think that some people get sick more often than others because of the way that their life is lived.
Yeah.
And there would be some times where I'm like you, where I will go a really, really long time without being ill at all. And I'm like, I'm invincible, I'm amazing, I'm magic. And then, this year has actually been a tough one. I've been going through some like personal stress stuff and dealing with family is like the biggest loosh. And I've had some family stuff that I'm having to deal with. And I have found that this year I've been sick twice. I know better. I know that I need to take better care of myself. I know that I have all these things that I can do to keep myself from getting into these states where I'm primed to let whatever happen. But I didn't. I didn't protect myself, and here I am. I've got the hoarse voice and the sniffles, and but I'm not running to the hills. I'm just letting my body do its thing. And I also don't take. My mom's like, you need to get some Dayquil. You need to get some NyQuil. I actually don't. I don't like taking any sort of over-the-counter medicine. It just masks the symptoms. Yeah, it may temporarily make you feel better, but I strongly believe that our bodies have everything they need to do that type of job. We just need to supplement. We just need to hydrate and put proper nutrition in. And get some sunshine. Speaking of the solstice, get that sunlight, get that low angle, morning sun on your face, get that evening sun on your face. It's so good for the human body system. For the solstice, I for some reason, I'm kind of have a love-hate relationship with the sun. We talked about this last time. It burns my retinas, but I just love being in the sun. And last year, I did a bike ride around the lake. I actually didn't even realize it was a solstice, but I did a nice bike ride. It was, like 20 miles or so. And I got back and I was like, man, the sun is just still shining. Why is it not dark yet? And I realized last year I was like, oh, it's the solstice. This is the longest day of the year, of course. And so this year, I was like, I'm going to do another bike ride on the solstice. I have to. And I wasn't feeling so great, but I was like, you got to do it. And I did it, and I'm so glad I did. The longest day of the year for me.
Did it feel longer for you? Did the day feel like a longer day?
I will tell you, in this week leading up to the solstice, there was like, I almost get like a depression because there's too much light. It's like, what am I going to do with all of this day? What am I going to do? I got up at 5:30 a.m. and I was like, oh my God, I have 17 hours of sunlight left. Like, what am I going to do with all this time? It kind of felt overwhelming. It felt a little overwhelming. And so, now, leading up to the solstice, every day gets 1 minute longer. So, we're at the dead of winter. The winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. And then leading up to the solstice, every day gets 1 minute longer. And now that we've reached our peak, we've reached the summer solstice, every day from now till the equinox, we're going to get 1 minute, approximately 1 minute shorter every single day. The amount of daylight that we encounter in our daily life is going to decrease by 1 minute every single day. And you won't notice that on a day-to-day basis. You don't. But all of a sudden, come August, come September, October,
darker and darker earlier in it.
Darker and darker. This does go to the discussion, though, here in the United States. I'm not sure if they're having that over there. I know that you guys have, it doesn't time exactly with our daylight savings time, but you guys have your own switch that you do. But they're really discussing now for the first time. I mean, they always talk about it, but in the government echelon, they're actually talking about doing away with it, doing away with this quote unquote daylight savings scheme. I don't know. I mean, I think they just changed the time to mess with us, just to keep us from ever having any sort of firm ground, just when we're getting used to something a certain way, they're like, whoops, now it's changed,
An
I
hour
think that,
change, an hour.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
in
it
that
really
time,
does affect you. They say that when we lose an hour, that when we spring forward and we actually lose 1 hour of sleep, there's a significant amount of heart attacks and pulmonary issues and all of people presenting with angina, which is kind of a pre-heart attack or something that mimics a heart attack. There is a significant increase in these types of events within the medical community. It actually weighs on the body. It stresses the body to lose that just a simple hour of sleep. And also we stress about it, the changing of the clocks, and it's this whole ordeal. I do think that there's something that happens to the body when we tweak, even in that minor micro way, just 1 little hour. What's 1 little hour going to do? Well, I think it could and does something significant to our body
definitely.
system.
Have you ever? I've worked a job before where I worked a night shift, and then when you'd come off, and I'd always feel ill all the time, on your days off. So it's like even in that's another thing I could.
I've never worked
change.
personally. I've never worked nights. I can't work nights because I'm an early riser. I wake up early and I am an early to bed. I am useless past 9 p.m. Just absolutely useless. I don't work. I turn off. My machine just turns off. But my dad, he worked shifts called 28 and 28 when he was overseas. He would be gone for 28 days and home for 28 days, gone for 28 days, home for 28 days. It was more of a 30 and 30 because there was 2 days of travel. But when he was on, it was a 24-hour thing. I think he had like two hours to sleep while he was there. And it was like these round the clock nocturnal shifts, and then you would take like an hour break, a 1 hour break, and then another hour break. So you'd really just get 2 hours of sleep. And
Definitely
you would
has an effect on your body, I think. Like
he could never readjust, and then you're home for 28 days, so you get to like totally readjust. But he could never. He just
by
never
the time
could.
you've readjusted, you're going back.
You're going straight back. And so I would hear him downstairs at like 2 a.m, just piddling around. He was really just trying to keep. He was just trying to keep that schedule. He was trying to keep himself up so that he wouldn't have to do that all again, and he was just depriving himself of sleep so he could continue doing his job to the best he could, because it was starting to weigh on him. He was like older and older and older. It was harder and harder and harder on the body. But yeah, I'm not cut out for that. What was that like for you? What were some of the
Not very good. I didn't last very long, to be honest with you.
Oh, Rambo.
But yeah, so like you do a week of nights, and then you'd come home on Friday. So you'd finish Friday maybe early, but you'd still get home at like 11 p.m. Yeah. And then you'd have to go to bed when you got home, which then you're used to being awake. You've adjusted to being awake at that time.
Right.
Then you've got to wake up on the Saturday. You've got the daytime, the Sunday, but you can't adjust because you're tired in the day. Then you're going back on the Monday. And I was doing that working away myself, so it would be a day of travel, and then horrible for the body. I thought personally,
and you said that it would make you found yourself in that period a little more ill, like more
all the time, like feeling and just like clouded mind. I was just like, didn't know whether it was coming or going. I didn't know what was going on, and I wouldn't advise doing that ever again. I'd rather not. It was a horrible thing. So, like you say, we'd set off Monday morning early, and then we'd get to wherever we was going like 6 hours later. Then we'd start work, and we'd work right through the night, go to bed, and then you just had to adjust like that. Then on the Friday, we'd get up extra early to just try and adjust a bit so we could go home a little bit earlier, and then we'd try and wake up on the Saturday as though it was a normal day, but it never was.
What do you think about? This is like a thought experiment, but there's some people that ascribe the sun to advancing cellular aging. So anytime that we go out into the sun, I talk about the benefits of getting some sunshine on your face, but there is a school of thought where anytime we encounter the sun, it's actually aging us significantly on a cellular level. What if we weren't really meant to be outside in the daytime, but our whole society
and we're actually nocturnal?
Right. And we actually should be vampire style, where we're like, doing all of our activities in the nighttime and then sleeping during the day. I mean, that would be very difficult. It's very difficult for me to even imagine, just because everything in life is set up to enjoy. And I love being outside, I really do. But what if, the inversion is clear. It's like we're living in an upside down world. So what's up is it should be down, and what's down, it should be up. And so maybe daytime should be our time that we are hidden away. What do you think?
Possible. I was actually thinking about this a minute ago as we were talking about it. Quite possibly. And also like vision, maybe the sun affects your vision, and maybe you would be able to kind of, like these animals that can see in the dark. Do you know what I mean? Like, because they're not out in the day. So they have clear vision in darkness.
Yeah. Yes. The sun, our entire visual acuity, everything that the way that our binocular system, our 2-eye system operates, is trained on our exposure to sunlight.
Are we supposed to squint while we're out and the sun's out?
Well, I do. I've been squinting my whole life like a champ. But when we're in utero, who knows what really goes on in there when we're 3D printing humans inside our bellies? Who knows? But it's pure darkness, water, liquid form, and then we're expelled out, and our eyes open for the first time. We see usually artificial light, since it's in a hospital or something. But what if we were never meant to have this direct exposure from birth? I mean, how would we do that? How would we reframe everything to protect ourselves from light? Because, ultimately, when we talk about all of this stuff, deception, distractions, hoaxes, blah, 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 conspiracies, we're talking about false light, essentially. We're talking about shadow play. It goes back to Plato's cave. This is everything that we talk about is essentially a reanimation of what they told us was happening in Plato's cave, where we're just seeing the shadows flicker on the wall based on false light that someone else is controlling. What if the sun is
like
false light? Yes, we
like
touched on this last time. China made their own fake sun.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. What if that
the
sun
sun
up there?
false light?
I think so.
I do.
I think so. I think this whole place is a theater set.
Upside down.
Yeah, in that whole, that big orb in the sky, that big blinding spotlight, is just like a spotlight on the theater. I think that there's something unnatural.
Something to it, definitely. I think so. I think you're right.
There's definitely something to it. The theater set.
The theatre set, talking about a theatre set, what did you think of Biden on his bike?
Oh, well, I thought about it the whole time when I was riding my bike. It just popped into my head. I was like, you better not fall. Don't fall, don't pull a Biden. But, so let's deconstruct that. Before we talk about him falling or whatever, it didn't look like an 80-year-old man.
No.
So many people are saying that.
I think that was purposely done as well. So we all say, look at that, it's Jim Carrey and all that.
He was jacked. The hair, the muscles.
It's just them sunglasses on that you don't even know who it is. Nobody knows. Hat on, sunglasses. It could be anybody.
And it was like, beep.
And he fell off right on the zebra crossing, the black and white.
And if you watch that video, the very first bicycler, the very first cyclist that you see is wearing a purple shirt. Imagine that. Like just front and center. Very first shirt you see, and then she goes off to the side, and then here comes Biden.
Looked to me like a cut scene as well, from like when we see Biden to when he falls, and then it looked like
There's always someone who walks in front of the camera to kind of give a cut scene, a transition, an editor's cut. There's always a body or a tree or something that goes right in front of the camera, blocking the view. If you'll rewatch that video, there's just that split second where he parks the bike and then someone walks in front of the camera.
Yeah, and then he falls off the bike.
Falls, and you can't really, you don't really get to see the full expression of the fall.
I thought the background just looked different, like the whole shade of it, and it kind of looked to me like those, like we've said, those, because people say green screen. I've seen a lot of people saying green screen, but like I think it's those virtual reality platforms we've talked about before, where it's like more than a green screen, in it. It's more than a green screen, in it. The ground, everything about it is virtual. Everything.
I think it's the mixing of the unreal and the real that makes it feel real. So let's say, when we say everything's fake, that is it does not do justice to what we're talking about. Because in this instance, what I think is really happening, exactly as you said, it's a composite. It's a compilation, a layering of some real elements. Maybe the scene itself, it was real. Like that's a real bike lane that you can go through. You know, like the actual scene is not CGI, but maybe the players within it, the people, are layered in. They weren't actually there on that day, and they're just kind of the population of the scene is done with, and they could even be real people just from a different time. You know, just a layering in of all these different elements. Disney pioneered this. Disney is famous for this multi-plane experience where every element of the scene is happening on a different plane entirely. The background is on one plane. The foreground is on another plane. The shading and shadowing is on a different plane. The actual action, you know, the main characters are happening on their own plane. I think that's actually what we were seeing. It wasn't just one scene.
Posted a little clip on this about a year ago. It's up the truck, right? And he's showing you how they, well, I don't know for sure because he show you behind the scenes, but that's not behind the scenes. So they show a truck driving, and then in another scene you have people running. Then all of a sudden they cross that over and people are running from the truck. Do you know, like it's layered over. It's quite a good video actually, how it shows. But it just gives you that kind of idea that they can do that and nobody has to actually be there.
Nobody actually has to be in there in the same space. Oh my God. Okay, I definitely got those vibes when Ben Stiller visited.
I'm just about to say that as well.
That whole scene seemed unreal. It seemed like two people that were not actually in the same space. And when I say people, let's put that in air quotes. Two characters that were not actually in the same, two actors. Yes, two actors that were not in the same place and time, that were layered in together to have the appearance that they were meeting there together. What was your impression of that? Like, first of all, Ben Stiller, like, what the heck?
Why? My first impression is like, why would, if there's a war, why would this guy be going there? Do you know, like, Ben, an actor of all, do you know what I mean? That as soon as you see Hollywood actor there, it's kind of finished for me. Like, and another thing, do you know who else went there just recently? Boris Johnson was there as well.
Was he there with like a parade of other leaders, world leaders?
Yeah,
that all went
he kind of went there and he avoided some Partygate thing.
Oh, that's right. He was still getting in trouble. And that was from Corona, basically like in the midst of lockdowns, he was having these wild parties, so they say. That's just to enrage the public because like, we're locked down, but you're in there partying. No, that's just.
And then now he's had a sinus operation, and everyone's saying it's because he's on the coke and all this stuff at the parties and all that.
I swear, he does look like he just. Every time I see him at the podium, he looks like he just came up from a line. You know, his hair's every which way. He's sweating profusely. He seems so disheveled. Yeah, this individual is in search of coke, some sort of stimulant. Oh, but that reminds me of. There was this whole discussion around Trump of him doing stimulants of some sort because of his erratic speech and behavior and all sorts of things. I mean, this was on like a large podcast I was listening to, left-leaning, but they were talking about how he was, you know, basically on meth. No, it was Joe Rogan. They were talking about how Trump was all hopped up on, I mean, so it was a big podcast, not left-leaning, but whatever, just like huge podcast. And they were talking about how Trump always seemed to be hopped up on some sort of like meth, like substance, a stimulant. And then it kind of went into the discussion of Hitler, and supposedly Hitler was always hopped up on meth and stimulants and all this stuff, and major drug addict. Well, Hitler was just a character. Trump's just a character. Why are they, and all these embarrassing details. Boris is absolutely a character. You know, if he wasn't a character, his hair would be brushed once. You know, if he was a real person, they would brush his hair one time. Just once.
He's always like shuffling paperwork about and like he's forgetting his lines. It makes his, like they give him like a carefree kind of character. Like he's just like one of us kind of thing.
Yeah, he's one of us. He can barely keep up with the rigors of politics because he's just one of us. He's just a guy like one of us. You know, they give them these traits, character traits. That's literally what they're called, a character trait, where they're always exhibiting a certain behavior because it breeds that familiarity with us. They can do those little, those idiosyncrasies, and that will whoever's
Makes them
playing
real.
that, it makes them real. And I like impressionists, people that can do impressions, and they always say like political people that can do a good Obama, or people that can do a good, there's a lot of presidential impressionists, a good Trump. It's kind of hard to do, but what you have to do is you have to find that thing, that little idiosyncratic thing that they do, whether it's, Biden's got his, come on, man, or whatever. They've got these little phrases that they say. And once you find that little hook, you can get into the impression. I'm not a good impressionist, but I like hearing how it's done, and you've got to find that little hook. And so I think these politicians have these built-in hooks that make them seem real, but also make them highly impressionable. And so if someone else is playing the role, all they have to do is cover those bases of those hooks. Just do this when you talk. Do this with your feet. Shuffle those papers around. Have that hair messed up. And you're Boris Johnson.
Them
Bing,
hand
bing,
signs
boom.
like Trump doing all this
Trump
all the
has those
time.
hand signs. Oh my God. Totally unnatural. Oh, speaking of unnatural hands, not that I wanted to talk about Bill Gates, but that just reminds me of Bill Gates, how his little puppet hands were always flapping and flailing. Entirely unnatural. He's kind of got out of the spotlight lately. I feel like
Not heard of him for a long time.
I haven't heard hide nor hair of him in a long time. Last I heard about Bill Gates was when he was gobbling up all the farmland in the United States, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's the boogeyman's back." It's like, y'all, he's just, again, just another character. But the Ben Stiller Zelensky thing, you're
when
right.
I've seen it, it just looks fake. Do you know, like it just looks, and I don't see Zelensky as like a proper person either. Do you know, obviously not, but. So when you see them together with Hollywood, it's just like they're kind of telling you. I feel like it's
he's never changed shirts. Zelensky,
no,
he's still wearing
green
that
all the way through.
It's that.
And if you Google image him, every single picture is in green all the way down. It's like, does he not have another shirt, or is it's
just
funny.
The one, Rambo? It's
just that army-looking shirt to make him look like he's on the front lines.
I know. It's not even, he's like wearing the trainer, those Nike running shoes and cargo pants. It's a poor appropriation of military style. It's not even military fatigue. It's not even real military getup.
People still think he's a hero, though. Do you know?
Oh, yeah. People are going crazy. There's still Ukraine flags waving all over my neighborhood.
Same.
I am just
everywhere.
waiting.
I actually was going to start taking pictures of them.
I'm just waiting for the next flag to fly. Like, what is the next thing that what is going to make people take down their Ukraine flags and replace it? What's it going to be?
At the minute, over here, it's pride flags everywhere.
Oh, we've got those too.
The rainbow.
Yeah, we've got those
the rainbow.
too. Yep.
Everywhere you look. So I was having this little conversation. I thought, if my son just said, Dad, I really like rainbows. Can you have a rainbow shirt? He can't, because it's like a political division tool,
right.
And he doesn't know that, but he can't have one because he doesn't know there's a meaning. If you have a rainbow, it means something.
Right.
They've
taken the most ubiquitous symbol. Like literally everything is a rainbow. We just can't always see it. Like any light coming into our eyes is carrying the full visual light spectrum. It's the full rainbow. It's just expressed in different ways with things that we see.
It's just a symbol of division, and we've talked about this before. I don't care who you're having
division
sex.
and polarization.
Nobody cares who you're having sex with, and that community wouldn't exist without the straight community.
Right.
Get me? And nothing against anything, but it just gets pushed every time I go on Twitter. It's just everywhere I look. It's it doesn't bother me at all, but it bothers me that it's being forced upon me. And if you don't kind of take note, then you're a phobic. Do you know what I mean? I just ignore this.
Right.
I kind of just ignore it if I can. The same with the Ukraine flag, but at the minute, that's kind of took up in every window down my street here. There's rainbow flags, and some people aren't even gay in that. Do you know what I mean?
They're just showing showing support for the. Yeah, I've got two neighbors across the street. One is a gay couple, and the next door is a family, and they're just flying their flag in solidarity of people next door, just to show them that they support. And it really doesn't matter.
Absolutely no problem with what you want to do.
It doesn't matter.
Do whatever you want.
Gay, straight, whatever. It really weighs nothing on the public at large.
With the BLM flags and all this stuff, it's again a division. But the people who are supporting this flag and standing under the flag, they can't see that they're then being separated from everybody else. And they're then in their own little group that they have to defend without realizing they're kind of boxed off under that.
It almost
flag.
furthers the oppression. I will say there was a time in this country and every country where you were not allowed to be gay. You were not allowed to say, I'm gay. Like, there weren't even words for it. Not that long ago, Rambo, there weren't even these words. There wasn't a word for homosexual. There wasn't a word for this type of thing. Not saying it didn't exist. There's always been, for as long as we've been here, which I don't think is that long, there's always been a rainbow of sexual preferences, and sometimes
they also
that could
used the rainbow though for COVID over here. They used the rainbow as a symbol of the NHS.
Yes, I remember when they were putting those when kids were drawing those rainbow little drawings and putting those up on the windows during COVID. That was a uniquely UK thing, I think. But I mean, it goes back, like, I do think that at this moment right now, we have extreme and absolute freedom. And there's very, very few people who are actually oppressed in the way that they cannot live their life in the way that they would like to. We let everyone, like, freak flags are flying, but we're acting as if we've never been more divided and oppressed, when in reality we have more freedom than we ever have. Let's decouple this conversation from lockdowns, and because that's not freedom, but I'm talking about freedom to make personal choices based on your innate preference. You can do that. You really can lead whatever life you desire these days. There's an avenue for that. There's an avenue for that, and there's a community for that. And just do you, boo-boo.
Yeah.
But the constant conversation around the oppression, around the divisiveness, I mean, I do think that the rainbow represents the polarization, represents the opposition. On one side of the rainbow is, the rainbow represents the full light spectrum, and the two polar opposites on either end, when we talk about the wrapping of the rainbow, and then you get purple and blah, 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 blah. I won't go into purples this time. But I do think that what the rainbow ultimately represents is the capacity for polarization. And that is division. There's power in the polarization. There's power in keeping us believing that we are on opposite sides. We're really not. I think everyone is a lot more united.
Race stuff as well, isn't it? It's kind of like, it mainly exists on TV. I mainly see it on TV, the race stuff, on the news and whatever. But, like, there's a footballer today, right? He's called Gary Lineker. Mm-hmm. He's come out today. He's getting a load of stick for it. And he's obviously, he works for the BBC and stuff, so he's in the club. And he's a white guy, and he's come out and said, because I have a tanned complexion, I suffered racism as a footballer.
What?
Yeah, it's actually in the news now. He's suffered racism as a footballer because he has a tanned complexion, but he's white.
Do you remember Rachel Dolezal?
Just pushing that. No.
There was a white woman in the United States who was passing as a black woman. She was identifying as a black woman, and she was born white. She had white parents, but she, for whatever reason in her life, decided, I think it's all a hoax and a ploy, I think that she's a character, just to kind of get this conversation started. But she truly identified as a black person. She was living as a black person. She was like the president of the NAACP chapter in her town, and NAACP is an organization specifically for African Americans. And once it was discovered, and she had like a fro, she tanned her skin in a way. She wore makeup in such a way. She fixed her hair in such a way, and she basically did everything that she could to identify and visually pass as, she was like transracial. She was like she was a tranny. She was a racial tranny. And she got raked over the coals for that. She was ahead of her time. This is like maybe 10 years ago. She was absolutely ahead of her time, because now I think that type of thing might just be celebrated. I mean, we have trans everything now. Why not transracial? Why not identify as another race?
Well, you can identify as whatever you want, so like you said then, probably as free as we can be. You can be whatever the hell you want, anything. How the mainstream kind of use things though to make this a division, like with the swimmer the other week, there was this swimmer woman one there who was actually a man and stuff, and that then triggers people who are not as open-minded to everything as we are, and to kind of, well, that like, obviously it shouldn't happen, but it gets people mad. And there was one the other day, and it was an MMA fight in One Championship, which is this massive organization for fighting. And there was a transgender woman fighting a woman, and she knocked her out, and everyone's like, it's normal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and then they put that out online, and everyone's going mad. Do you know what I mean? And then that further makes it more of an issue. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a bit mad.
It is
I might
a little
post
insane.
that in a bit. It's a bit, honestly, it's that MMA fight, it was clearly a man versus a woman.
And in what world is that okay? You know, we're making that seem
In this world.
In this world, we're moving backwards.
In
we're
this
moving
timeline.
backwards. Yeah, we're devolving. We're devolving what it means to be human. We're not progressing. It seems like we're
Regressing.
Seems like we're, you know, that they say one step forward, 80 steps back.
Yeah.
That's what we seem to be doing.
But in doing that, there's people out there that are actually in support of this UFC. It wasn't the UFC, but it's like the MMA. There's people in support of, well, it is a woman. It is Joe.
Yeah, that's why we're, yeah.
Are they real people arguing that point? Can people really agree that man who just beat up that woman
good question.
on TV, is there a real person out there that can justify that as... I don't think so.
Or are we just told there is this small but loud contingency that vehemently agrees, you know, that they should have men beating up women, or, you know, men lapping women in the pool? It's insane to think that. And then people are like, there's no difference between a man and a woman, you know?
We're living in an insane world right now.
It does seem a little insane. It does seem to be a little insane. We've approached what I believe we are living right now in the theater of the absurd. It makes zero sense. Once you realize you're in the audience, and once you see the theater curtains, it's a clown show. It's a clown show up there.
There needs to be a cleansing. I feel like there needs to be a cleansing of the air to stop this going. And this, not even just that topic, just everything just seems to be going out of control. And it feels like all this fake stuff, what we see is fake, or no, I feel like I know it's fake. Everything we see on TV, everything we see on the internet, it's all fake. And it's all to like trigger us. But it's actually coming into real life because everyone's believing it. People are offended by everything. People are stuck up their own ass. Do you know what I mean? Something needs to
burn it all down, Rambo.
The world needs humbling right now.
Yeah,
like,
we need to be leveled.
Yeah, something needs to happen because it's building up. And every time we say it, it's like we're at boiling point. I feel like the world is at boiling point all around.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. You're right. I think that there is a simmering. We've been slowly simmering for a while, and now we've essentially reached a full boil.
And we need the fake apocalypse to come now and sort all these NPCs out.
I love it. You know, and the word apocalypse, this is one of my favorite things. Whenever we hear the word apocalypse, we think fiery destruction, fiery crash, dismantling and clearing of everything and total chaos and all that stuff. Apocalypse doesn't mean that. Apocalypse just means to uncover or reveal.
Yeah.
To uncover or reveal. And I think that we are living in Revelations right now.
I believe that. I do believe that. And I'm not like into the Bible or anything, but I do feel there's something to that word, like Revelations, you know.
I think so. I think that, and I'm with you. I don't ascribe to a particular modern religion or any religion, but I do find that certain religious texts, the Bible being front and center, there are some great truths, some deep truths embedded in there. Kind of like Q, the whole
As
Q
in everything.
Thing.
Yeah, there's truths in there's truths in the news. If you watch the news, there's truths in everything. They tell you the truth all the time. They're always telling you it's not real. It's just how you
they always tell us the truth. They always do tell us the truth, is whether or not we can see it right in front of our faces. But I love what you said about like kind of clearing everything out, just like taking it all down to the ground and just totally starting over. Because that reminds me of what the news yesterday, Uvalde the Uvalde school, they're gonna demo it. They're gonna
Yeah,
bulldoze
I
the
said
school.
that, Jen, when I said he was talking about demolishing it literally the day after.
We talked about that last time, yeah. And then they announced it. And that is 50 Shades of Sandy Hook, because Sandy Hook, right after
Demolished
it
that
got
as well, yeah.
demolished, and everyone's like, oh, they're demolishing it to hide the evidence. No, that's a likely story, and that's what's going to be implanted in the minds, is they're just trying to hide the evidence, get rid of everything. What they're attempting to do with the demolishing of it, the taking it down, is they are reinforcing that something so bad happened within those walls. It must be taken down. It must be cleared over. There's no way.
Put a memorial up so you remember it forever.
Yeah. Nothing happened in that school other than theatrics. Nothing happened. It's all theater. If you don't have to believe anything that we say. Just go read the news articles coming out right now, y'all. It makes zero sense. The official narrative has changed every which way till Sunday. They can't keep their story straight. There's a whole thing for many weeks about they needing to find they couldn't get into the classroom for over an hour because they needed to find keys. They couldn't find the right keys. The door wasn't even locked. Come to find out now, there was no lock on the door. The door was actually open. The door was actually ajar. It couldn't even close. None of these details are even real.
More and more ridiculous by the day, and I feel like
absurd.
Yeah, so when we first got into this scene, everything was absolutely fake. It's maybe I've not lost interest. I'm actually looking at getting right back into social media very soon. I feel like I've had a little break now and I'm ready to get back in. And I keep looking for what I'm going to grab onto. And I feel like I'd just be repeating what I was repeating last year.
It'll find you. It usually does. I'm doing that as well. I'm taking a little bit of a step back. I'm not as active on Twitter or Insta. Just for the past week or so. But the Uvalde, the demoing of the school, when I read that article, it just set something off inside of me. And I just, I did a little Twitter, or not Twitter. Yeah, I did a Twitter thing and an Insta thing on it, just to reiterate that we've been here before. We've seen this play before. It wasn't real then. It's not real now. It's a template. This whole exercise is a template of previous trauma, but the trauma it's
but it still works to the average thing.
Yes.
So they're just basically they're not changing they're not fixing what isn't broken. They just keep on.
More and more, Rambo, more and more people are coming online to the understanding, the kernel of recognition that what we are being presented is not true, is not real. That little kernel is taking hold, is taking seed in the minds of so many more than ever. When we were talking about this stuff in 2020,
the cleansing. This is part of the cleansing. I think there's a time limit on who's going to come online and who isn't.
Yeah. And we've talked about this. Is everybody capable of coming online to this type of stuff?
Not supposed to be. I don't think so. Everyone around us is real anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think everybody around us is real. And Les said something interesting. I thought maybe these people, whoever's the controllers are doing this, is to keep the NPCs in check. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And stop them just turning on us. Do you know? It's keep them invested in these ridiculous things instead. Do you know what I mean?
Les always has the best thoughts.
Yes, good out. He does. He really does.
He really does. Les.
Yeah, I'm living amongst. I don't know if they're NPCs, demons. I don't know, but I'm living amongst them all around.
It does seem to be like an automaton. That they are just programmed through the airwaves. It's almost like a computer system where they get their inputs in the morning from the news or whatever, wherever you get your, and then they react in a predictable, programmed way for the rest of the day or week or month or year or whatever, what have you.
I can predict myself how a certain person around me will react to a story that's just come. I can already see, I can see the people who are scared of what comes out the TV and stuff. You can see and how they're going to react.
Dog whistle. It's like a dog whistle. We can't hear it. We are immune to it. I can't hear a dog whistle from my frequency, but those Those dogs sure can, you know?
Yeah.
It's almost like the news is a dog whistle for NPCs. We have immuned ourselves from that frequency, so it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. I mean, I do listen to the news and I read the newspaper just to kind of keep abreast of what is top of mind within the mainstream narrative. I want to hear how they're describing these. Again, because we'll find the truth. The truth is out there. They tell us the truth. They basically show
Right
us
in your
how
face.
unreal it
I
is.
feel like
Right in our
when I'm
faces.
watching the news, I see the truth straight away. Do you know,
Yep.
like starting, it's bullshit straight away.
Number one, bullshit. Number two, fake.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think
Actor.
number three, is a man in a mask.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what's kind of drained me out of social media at the minute. It's just becoming, it's so obvious. Do you know what I mean?
Painfully obvious.
Painfully obvious to the point where sometimes I'm like, do I really need to write this now and say this is fake again? But I'm waiting for something to get me back in and ready. I'm waiting to get back on.
It'll hit you.
Because
It'll be something that's personalized for you.
yeah.
You know, in many ways, it'll be something that captures your interest and something that just like.
So I mean, we can't
goes
all
right to
be
your heart.
interested in the kind of same stuff as well. Like some people have had a few messages. I like to look at this or look at this because it doesn't interest me. I'm only interested in
Right.
not that I'm not open to be, but if it doesn't
Right. You know, that's
light
so
something inside me, then
You're right. Like there's certain things that will captivate my interest and my attention, and other things that even though they are interesting, arguably interesting, they just do not captivate me. And you're right. We all have our own triggers, our own bellwethers, our own little the carrot, you know, the back
we've
of my
already
head.
covered that in a different template. So like it feels too familiar to us, even though it's a different story, but
Kinda like
same.
been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what's been my problem with it. I feel like I've covered a lot of the stuff that is happening again now. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's just a different story, but same outcome.
Like
It's
the
fake.
war. We've covered the war. I mean, again, shout out to Les with the whole Ukraine theater. You know, without him, we got a front row view to how fake it was. And so everything past that point, even though I knew it was false, and I know I have a theory on all wars being theatrical, but for him to actually be there and show that to us firsthand, that was really special. And that solidified within me, you know, we're on the right track. We're shining our lens, we're looking through the right lens, you know. And so it kind of it made the war tired to me. Once he, with absolution, proved that it was theatrics, that was enough for me. And I can't give any interest. I don't even want to talk about the war. We talked about like the Zelensky Ben Stiller thing because that's just absurd.
They're letting us know even
silly.
more.
It's
Like, it's
silly.
fake.
It's very, very silly. But I have no interest in the war, even though it's interesting. I just don't want to. I don't want to cover how fake it is anymore. You know. So that's one of the examples of things that are right in our wheelhouse, but I've lost the ability to care about it, and therefore it doesn't do me any good to like point things out anymore. I'm
They're
just
not
done
giving
with
us any videos of like bombs. Do you remember when it originally happened?
Yeah.
Like kids screaming and rockets fired
Well,
into
they
the house.
showed us the
flames
holiday
and all that.
pictures.
Yeah.
Everyone's just frolicking on the beach. It's
Just headlines now, nothing else really. There's not many videos, and I've still not seen a actual video of a fight in the street, like shooting each other. Not all this time, I've not seen it.
The
Just
war
headlines.
has absolutely lost steam, at least in my book. I do think that we are going to come to a very quiet exit of the war narrative. I mean, actually, I was looking on the New York Times front page, and for the past couple of months, really since April, the front page news story has always been something about the war. And the last time I looked at the front page, NewYorkTimes.com, I actually had to scroll quite a bit, and I only found this tiny little sidebar about Ukraine, about the war in Ukraine. And that alerts me to the fact that the mainstream has realized and recognized that the holding power has diminished.
Losing, yeah.
It's losing power, losing steam, losing power. Let's go on to the next thing. Actually, I'm kind of curious. What is the front page of the New York Times right now? Okay, so they're back to the gun narrative. They're back, you know, with the Uvalde shooting. That's January 6th, the whole fake insurrection. That's front and center.
Just need to hurry up and bring the aliens. They do. Bring the aliens.
Exactly. I think that the aliens are going to be, they always have been, this last ditch effort for fear, unification by fear. You know, like I think if they want us to all get on the same page, because we are pretty divided, and some people believe X and some people believe Y, and there seems to be a widening chasm between who believes what and why. And I think that if they do want an immediate unifier, 9/11 essentially acted as that. Like it unified the country and we were all patriots together after, the years after 9/11. There was an extreme level of patriotism, and we were begging for protection. We were begging for these new laws to be, enacted on the books that took away all of our freedoms. We were just begging for it because we needed the savior figure. And I think that if they want to unify us in this way, again, it's going to have to be extreme.
It has to be bigger.
It's going to have to be bigger
and
9/11.
better. Yeah.
What's better than 9/11? And what's bigger and better than CGI planes than CGI alien?
UFOs, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I hope so. That'll definitely get me back in.
Oh, yeah. If the aliens come, Rambo is back in action for sure. Well, this was a good one. I wanted to do some listener questions, but we've gone over an hour. Let's do an episode where we just cover listener questions on another one, and then we can focus on those because we've got some great questions that came in on the Patreon
Yeah, I've been
and on the
looking at them,
Discord.
yeah.
Awesome. So we'll record a separate one for those, but this is a good one. Let's just keep our eye out. And Rambo, keep resting. Just rest your mind. It'll come to you.
It comes to me, yeah.
It'll come to you in a burst. That's how it comes to me. And it usually happens after I take a period of rest.
Yeah.
Like a big burst of inspiration. So we'll all keep our eyes out. Well, this is a good one.
Well, take care.